Me now, CEO and President Cameron Chell. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
So first, in terms of your partnership with the U.S. Army, are these drones primarily for defense or also for offensive operations?
Well, I think the mission set's somewhat sensitive, but I can say that what's probably most important about this particular initiative is that the U.S. Army is looking for the capability to modify and have multiple mission sets available to them. So whether they're defensive, offensive, logistics, search and rescue, that's the capability that they want as close to the front line as possible, and why we've been lucky enough to be engaged in this opportunity.
What's the significance of training U.S. forces to build, equip, and modify those drones closer to the front line? Because that's certainly something we've seen in Ukraine. I mean, where you have these, you have these kind of drone labs right there, and they're building it and sending it out the next day.
Yeah, well, Draganfly is the oldest dual-use drone manufacturer in the world. We actually put out the first what was called then flying camera in 1998. And as an example, we've been active and boots on the ground in Ukraine since 2022, initially delivering insulin into besieged cities with our equipment, but then moving more and more into things like national defense and learning the tactics that the fine fighting Ukrainians have. So the lessons from that area have given us some capability and experience in being able to relate that back to allied NATO and US Five Eye included forces about, what are the techniques to modify, do maintenance, change your mission set instantly. And so Secretary Hesketh's incredible initiative to get that decision-making process down into the command level is what's driving, I believe anyway, organizations like the U.S. Army to work with companies like Draganfly that have experience in the field and boots on the ground so that these capabilities can be executed within hours, not within years of procurement cycle.
One interesting phenomenon in the Ukraine war, beyond seeing drone warfare advance enormously, is that while the initial framing of this war, right, was Ukraine depending on the West for weapon systems, that Ukraine's made so many advances that really the West, the US, Europe have a lot to learn, to learn from Ukraine at this point. And I imagine you've seen that as well with your own experience there.
Our greatest, so in the 27 years of manufacturing and solution provision in drones that we've done, the work in particular that we've done in Ukraine and that we've learned by being there in place and from those fine fighting individuals, and the ingenuity and initiative, because they're in the heat of battle every day, having to learn, having to adapt, being under-resourced. What we are now learning back is of exponential value compared to what we can bring to the table, other than, of course, the resources and industrial strength that we have.
Yeah. Who has the advantage right now in drone technology beyond the battlefield of Ukraine? When you think of Russia, China is certainly, we saw that on display during the Beijing military parade recently. The U.S., every U.S. commander and division chief is talking about drone technology in some way, and they're all training and integrating them into their exercises, et cetera. But does any one of the world powers have a particular advantage at this point, in your view?
Well, in my opinion, and it's somewhat informed, the Chinese by far are the dominant force in drones, not just in terms of size, but also in terms of capability and technology and a commitment to resourcing into drones. That is the real threat, and that is the industrial might that I believe the United States and its NATO and Five Eye allies have to bring to the table to combat. So whether it's anything from civil defense or supply chain protection or actual things like battlefield tactics, theaters of engagement, the Chinese completely dominate it right now, and that's the real risk. In many respects, unfortunately, the Ukraine theater has given us a wake-up call in order to be able to answer and put our military, our commercial, our civil, and our patriotic capabilities in front of what the incredible industrial Chinese complex has put in place. It's an imperative right now, and it's probably, in my opinion, our biggest threat.
Yeah, there's such a scale aspect to it, too. Cameron Chell, Draganfly, thanks so much for joining.